Can you use Facebook groups to attract clients for your hypnotherapy or NLP coaching business quickly and easily? Well, the answer is yes. And also, most people get this entirely wrong. Doing things like going into Facebook groups and doing value posts or trying to DM people in Facebook groups in order to attract clients will not only not work most of the time, but it'll draw a lot of negative attention to you in many instances. So I want you to watch this interview with one of my favorite clients and friends, Vickie, who now has a thriving hypnotherapy practice that's ever growing because she utilized my adopt an audience methodology in a very specific way. And that way was going into Facebook groups to attract clients, but in a way that not only didn't draw any negative attention, but the Facebook group owners were happy to have her doing so because she was collaborating with them. Okay, so the attract an audience model is where we leverage or utilize or connect with other people's existing curated groups. Okay, so not just Facebook groups, it could be masterminds, it could be networking groups, it could be training groups, it could be people's social media following, whatever. But Vickie liked the idea of going into Facebook groups specifically because she either knew of or was a member of multiple Facebook groups where she knew people who could be her ideal clients were already hanging out. So I want you to listen to this interview, listen to how Vickie went from struggling to attract clients by doing things like constantly posting on social media. I think she usually uses the metaphor of throwing spaghetti at the wall, or maybe not. You'll see that here in the replay. But listen to Vickie tell her story of taking action, connecting with Facebook group owners in the right way, and creating this win-win-win where it's good for their Facebook group owners, good for her because she got new clients, and you're going to be probably surprised and impressed how quickly she went from sharing some value in these Facebook groups in a very specific way to signing new paid clients. Okay, so enjoy this interview. Drop your comments in the comments, drop your questions in the comments, and I'll see you again at the end of this video. Okay, so hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Awesome Coaches Doing Awesome Things. Vickie, I don't think I even told you that that's the name of the show, but that's what I'm calling this interview series, even though I know you're more of a hypnotherapist than a coach, but or maybe it's both.
I'm kind of do both.
You're doing both. You're doing both, yeah. So welcome, Vickie. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome, everybody. And I just wanted to have a quick conversation today with my friend and I guess we're kind of a client, kind of a friend, kind of a student, wearing many hats in the Ryan Montes world. But I wanted to have a conversation with Vickie because even before I was calling it the AAA model, the adopt an audience model, which is my favorite way for coaches and hypnotherapists to grow their business and to get in front of prospective clients and to sign new clients, even before I was calling it the AAA model, Vickie was using it because her and I were talking about getting in front of other people's curated groups. It must have been 2 years ago we were talking about it. And she took that principle and she took the strategy and she ran with it with very admirable success. Now, she's not a millionaire yet. But, Vickie is a pro at speed of implementation, and which is why I love this case study of you taking the strategy, doing it, and getting instant feedback. And, as the conversation carries on, we'll talk about what that feedback was. Hint, hint, it was sales. But before we get into that, Vickie, if you could just quickly introduce yourself to the wide internet audience, basically.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on here, Ryan, because I always love having conversations with you, regardless of what they're about. But I am a master transformational coach and a hypnotist. And so I primarily work now with people who are wanting to speak and maybe have some limiting beliefs, some things, fears that hold them back, and they're not standing up and standing out, whether that is in the corporate world where you're needing to talk to your employees, or whether it's on a speaking stage or at a networking event. I do so many other things, but that's been my main focus the past 6 months or so. And so it's been really good.
Cool. Yeah. So master transformational coach and hypnotherapist. Okay, I like that. Now I got the title down. Okay, probably should have asked you that before, but we got it.
That's okay.
So let's. I mean, we kind of gave the audience the spoiler. We're going to talk about your success with the adopt an audience model. But maybe just briefly before we get into that, before you started using, the principle and the strategy of rather than, slowly and tediously growing our own audience, let's just get in front of curated groups that already exist. Before you embraced that idea, what kind of stuff were you trying to grow your business and to attract clients?
Oh, well, I was creating a group and I was trying to get people in it. I was going live in different places. I was doing a lot of things, but it wasn't, like big groups. It wasn't like with the purpose of this. It was like, it just felt like I got to do something and I couldn't figure out what that something was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you were posting on social media, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Yeah. Yeah.
how was that for attracting clients?
Well, it was attracting followers. It was attracting people that liked what I did, but it wasn't really translating into any money.
Okay. Yeah.
It was beginning to feel like it was a lot of work, a lot of busy work that had nothing, no fruit falling from the tree.
Okay, yeah, and I think
Yeah.
as you and I both know, you have a lot of great clients and people looking up to you, as well. As you and I both know, that's most people's experience when it comes to trying to
Hmm.
sell anything, whether it's coaching or a product on social
Yeah.
media. It tends to be easy to get likes, relatively easy to get follows, that type of engagement. But sales is a different, and clients is a different story. What about paid advertisement? Any experience with running paid ads online or anything like that?
I did that briefly, and I would do paid ads getting people to like a workshop or something.
Yeah.
But what was happening a lot of times with that was that I was getting a lot of people saying they were going to be there from these paid ads, but most of them didn't show.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, it was, on social media, we're expending energy and effort and, not
Yeah.
getting ultimately the result we want well, and again, this is not everybody, but a lot of coaches and hypnotherapists experiences spending money on ads and seeing some engagement with the ads. It's not as if it's radio silence, but again, it's not resulting in paid clients, right?
Right.
And again, you and I, we both been in this game now for a few years. That's most people's experience, right?
Hmm.
Um, so what changed? When I told you about, well, this adopt an audience model, we're using that term now, although I think we were calling it something else back then. But
It
the
was a
adopt an
Facebook swap.
Facebook swap, yeah. So what changed? First of all, why did you like that idea? And then we'll get into what happened when you started using it.
Well, I liked that idea because I felt like, well, I already have these people that I have a relationship with in the Facebook world, and they had a big following. So maybe that would work. And so I think we had a call, and then I immediately got off the call and I messaged one of the people that had helped me with starting a podcast and different things. And I thought she's the first person that I'll reach out to. So I reached out to her and I said, "Are you open to doing a Facebook swap?" She said, "Sure. I don't even know what that is. What do you want to do?" So, so I explained it to her and she said, "Sure." So we scheduled something right away. And I will tell you, I was a little bit scared with the whole process because I thought if I get in front of her audience, because she's been doing this a lot longer than I have, she's got a bigger audience. And what if I screw up? But I decided to just take it in faith that it was all going to go well. And it did. It was great.
Okay, so yeah, so when you say all, you'll take it in faith that all will go well, and it did, and it was great. What does that mean? I mean, what was the result of, that
Okay.
first
Well,
Facebook swap?
we did it where she was on a platform, I think I can't remember what it was, but she shared my little link she on screen. I talked about hypnosis. That's what I was selling at the time
Yep.
was and it was a really good price. And she put the little QR code. And while we're on the call talking about this, um, ended up getting the little ding, 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 ding. People were, I think it was StreamYard, where you can put the little things up.
Yep.
And it was like before I got off the call, I already had like 6 or 7 people that had said they wanted it and they bought, you know. And so it was amazing because I had never ever experienced anything like that. Sometimes I felt like I was struggling to get a one sale, much less having a conversation with someone on screen. And it felt like just a regular conversation, like what we're doing now. It didn't feel like a sales thing. It didn't feel any of that. It just felt like I was sharing information and then people were buying. It was great.
Yeah. And you know, I love that example because literally it was your first time using, the adopt an audience uh,
Hmm.
strategy. What do you think made the difference? Why do you think, obviously, I know the answer to this, but why do you think that context of having that collaboration where, like you said, it's just a conversation with you and this person that has an audience, has a group where, you're sharing your value to their group. What do you think it is about that context that made those sales in that case just start rolling in so effectively?
Well, her audience was actually people who needed what I have, for one thing. And just being able to be in front of a lot more people that I could just tell my stuff and give them a little bit of an experience. And then it's like that was kind of the thing that made them feel like, okay, this might work. Let me try it.
Yeah.
And so previously I had not done anything like that. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a big part of it, right? Like it's that, that existing group, they need what you have. And then the other thing, and you can let me know if you agree, is that there's this principle in business that it's easier to sell somebody else's thing than to sell your own.
Hmm.
Like, I can stand in front of 100 people and say, "Hey, my business coaching program is great. You should buy it." And maybe one person or two people will buy it if it's a highly engaged crowd. But if I have, my buddy Chris, who has his own group of 100 followers, and he stands in front of that group and says, "Everybody, you should go buy Ryan's business coaching program," right? I might get five or six new clients just because of what I call the law of trust transference, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And as
yeah,
you're
go ahead.
saying that, that's definitely it. And the other thing that was really interesting is because, as a hypnotist, I was giving them some of the little, that the levitating the arms and the lemon and the whole thing, right? I gave them the experience. But the person who it was her group after the call, she even reached out to me and said, "Oh, that was amazing." She said, "I want to have some hypnosis."
Yeah,
And, so she even sold herself by talking to me about it. But you're right. It was a lot of these people already loved her, already believed her. And then when she brought me in and said, "Hey, this is Vickie and this is what she does," yeah, yeah, that's a lot of it.
that's a big part. There's
Yeah,
there's a lot to creating the context that allows, that type of success that you had to happen. And a big part of it is having genuine value to offer, which you, of course, have a tremendous amount of value to offer to your clients. It's not going to work anybody and everybody without that. But it's
right.
that creating that context, right? That makes all the difference. And yeah, so good work. And then you did I just want to illustrate to the audience that it wasn't a fluke because then you repeated that in other groups with other audience owners. And how did that go?
Yeah, some of them it didn't curate as well, and some of them it did just about the same, or maybe even a little bit better. But I feel like the ones that it didn't curate as well is that they had a group and a big group, but they didn't have it activated really. And so they were trying to use me to activate it. And but I will say, even those people, I did have other people reach out later and say, "I saw you on this thing on Facebook and I want to have a conversation." Not all of those translated to actual sales, but it was definitely much more activity than I had had,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah. So, but if you look at, collectively, I don't know how many you've done now, the total number of these guest appearances, or I like to call them strategic collaborations that you've done since you started using this strategy, overall, it's a huge net positive in terms of
Yeah,
revenue and clients and actual engagement that leads to business growth. Would you agree?
right. I
Yeah.
agree. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And one of the things that that I like to tell people when we're talking about this strategy is because Vicky's right. We want to give everybody the truth. We want to give everybody the potential downsides with the upsides. Like the first one you did, you said you got 6 or 7 clients within the call and probably more after.
Yeah.
And then and then you've done some others where maybe you didn't get any clients from doing it. But aren't like when you compare that to social media posting or paid advertisements, that's pretty good odds, right? It's almost like, if I'm going to take a 50-50 chance on a marketing strategy, and I know there's a 50% chance, well, I'm going to get multiple sales from doing it. Therefore, I only need to do it 2 or 3 times to all but guarantee it's going to be effective. That's a lot better odds than
Yeah.
what other
And
people are
and
doing,
I
right?
looked at it as well as it was giving me an opportunity to practice just delivering the whole thing, right? And I like to look at it too as if I had a store, a standalone store that I was getting people into. Not every time some people walk in the door, not every time is there going to be a sale, but that may mean that they will go get their friend and send them in, and then there will be a sale. So I think sometimes I know for me in the past, I overlooked the value of how many people are in front of me. And it may be, well, only 20 people showed, but hell, if they had come into my house and I was talking to them, 20 people would feel like a lot. And so I think sometimes we can underestimate the value of the amount of people that there, because it really only takes one to get a sale. And the more you get in front of, the more likely you are to have a sale.
Yeah, that's such a great point, Vicky. Like, it's not just you, but like my other clients, my other students, when they start using this strategy, that the AAA adopt an audience strategy, um, it starts dismantling some of the old limiting beliefs that are installed in people because of social media marketing, where on social media, 100, 200, 500 watches on a video is nothing. That almost never will result in sales. But when we're talking about getting in front of other people's curated groups and being introduced by the audience owner, having as little as, like you said, 20 people in front of you, there's an extremely high likelihood that you're going to make one or two or 5 sales. I've done myself, and I use this principle as well in my business. I've done a presentation to a group of 7, and that had resulted in $5,000+ in revenue for my business.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
one of the big mindset shifts when we're adopting this strategy is that it's not the size of the audience you're speaking to, it's the composition, who's in the audience, and how did you get in front of them, right? Would you
Yeah.
agree?
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to just touch on, because obviously I have a boot camp where I teach people to, well, maybe it's obvious to you because you know about it, and the audience maybe is learning about it, but I have a boot camp where I teach people all about the adopt an audience model. And one of the sort of worries that I hear from the people that are going through the boot camp as they're learning the strategy and they're saying, okay, yeah, they're starting to understand how this works and the law of trust transference and why curated groups can be so powerful and why social media and ads are so ineffective for so many people. But one of the sort of hesitations that comes up is, well, oh, maybe that'll work for other people, but it won't work for me because I don't know what to say if I show up and have an interview with an audience owner, or if I do get an invitation to speak in front of somebody else's group. I'm not a great public speaker. I don't know what to say or whatever. But like you said, I'm not saying you're not a great public speaker, but you're a normal person. You're a normal human being,
Yeah,
like I am,
yeah.
like most people watching. And you said it yourself. You asked, you got a yes to get in front of somebody else's group, and you were nervous, and you showed up, and you just figured it out. But did you have a big fancy presentation with all kinds of complicated slides and TED Talk level presentation, or did you kind of just show up and speak about what you know about and what you're enthusiastic about in your business?
I just showed up and spoke about what I am enthusiastic in my business, and I let, because people were posting questions and stuff in the comments and everything. So it kind of, fed a little bit about, well, if they want to know about this, let me talk a little bit more about that. And so I think even if only one person is commenting, it gives you a little bit more information to feed into what they're needing. But it's just relaxing and just speaking about what I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I don't think anybody's gonna, no audience owner wants to invite somebody to give a presentation on, something that they're just researching just for the purpose of that one presentation. Like you're a hypnotherapist. If somebody's gonna invite you to speak, they're gonna ask you to talk about hypnosis, something you know a ton about,
Right.
right? And would you agree that, this is the other big contrast, the other big mindset shift? Like on social media, or if you're running ads, your content's got to be pretty good to, stand out against the rest, right? It's got to be
Hmm.
pretty well polished. There's a high these days because it's so saturated. Everybody's on social media. There's a high standard if you're going to get a lot of views or a lot of attention or make sales from your content. And you know, so it kind of, I think, again, installs in people this limiting belief that perfection is required.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're in front of somebody's curated audience and, you've been introduced by the audience owner, it's almost like the guards come down and people are no longer expecting this perfection. And it's actually quite the opposite. These audiences reward, real humanity, and they actually, what I find, and maybe you'll find this too, is that my little imperfections when I'm showing up and sharing with a group are the things that like create rapport, that
Yeah. Yeah.
make me feel like a real person to this audience and then actually deepen the connection. Have you found that as well?
I have, and being authentically you is the best thing. And people can feel if you're putting on this facade. And I think people crave that more now with all the AI stuff and everything. They want to have that connection with a real person. They don't want you to be so polished. I mean, some of these really big polished people have millions of followers and everything, but there's a whole sect of people that don't connect with them. And they're looking for somebody to connect with that is more where they feel comfortable to be able to just speak and listen. And so I think that's kind of part of the value that we give is we give them a place where they can ask a question without judgment and we can just share from our heart and they really really love it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. So, in that vein, would you say that like regular people, regular hypnotherapists, regular coaches who are growing their business can use this and be effective? And, yeah, you're going to be nervous if you're collaborating with other people to get in front of their groups, but is it doable for regular people?
Yes, and it gets easier. The more you do it, the easier it becomes to where it's like you see somebody's group and you just all of a sudden say, "Oh, I can add value to them. Let me message the admin and see what happens." And it's also releasing the expectation of how it's all going to transpire, and it's just let's play with this thing and see how far it'll take us.
Yeah, yeah. Perfect. Okay, yeah. So anything else that you can say about using, the adopt an audience strategy or any tips that you can give for people that are, thinking about trying it out for themselves?
Well, to go to the workshop for sure, because even though I had started doing this previously to you creating the workshop, I still, when I went through the workshop part, there were things like, whoop, I didn't remember that. I didn't know that. And so I was taking notes. So, and there's so much value in there that it's amazing. And the thing is that I think sometimes we see some of these people that are doing exponential things and we want to go from here to there. And that's why we get so scared and so caught up in how things are not working right because we're not doing the journey. And so I love this format because it makes it simple and easy to implement and then practicing it over and over again, just saying, okay, whatever happens, I'm just learning and just keep going. I think we can give ourselves the grace to do that and then really, really celebrate all the little wins along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, thank you very much for sharing that. So I think what I'm going to do right here is just put a little pause in the conversation, and we're going to say that that first bit was for the wider internet audience. And I have a couple of more questions for you, Vickie, if you just have like 5 more minutes
I do.
for my private coaching clients that I think would be helpful for them. So if you're watching on YouTube, bye everyone. I'm going to end the video now. And if you're watching in my private coaching program, stick around because I've got some more questions for Vickie. So bye, YouTube audience.
Bye.
Isn't Vickie wonderful? So I hope you enjoyed that interview. I really enjoyed speaking with you, Vickie. So again, if you enjoyed this interview, hit like, hit subscribe, drop your comments in the comments below, drop your questions in the comments below, and check out the description below this video to see my links for how you can learn from me. You can learn my adopt an audience model. Okay, links are down there, and Vickie's links, so you can connect with her if you want to connect with her. She's a great hypnotherapist, a great person, and a terrific lady. So thanks so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and hope to chat with you soon. Bye bye.